Agni parthene despina achrande Theotoke
Lucky woman whose prayer and suffering God hasn't denied and overlooked. The turning point, well, I started as a model because I was very young and there was a war in my country. It just started. It was at the time Yugoslavia, the country that I left. And since even though I was going to school, I was doing some modeling back home. You know, maybe as a lot of young girls thought maybe I had an opportunity to leave the place where it wasn't, there were not many opportunities and to go out into the world, the land of milk and honey, as they call it. So I can I can do something and I can help my family. I come from a middle-class family. My father was a civil engineer, one of the best in the country, and my mother was a teacher. She is a teacher. I mean, she was a teacher, but she's still alive. My father is not alive. So that's how I started. And I always had a strong faith. It didn't come from my family directly because they were not people that were going to church. I just felt that there was a father out there in heaven that took care of me. And I never felt alone or afraid. And I think that's what gave me strength to make a move at such a young age and to go through a lot of obstacles and difficulties and go to a different country. First I went to Italy and then I came to the United States. My goal was to go to the United States right away, but because of the war that broke out, I couldn't get visa in Belgrade because the embassy was shut down. And then I ended up arriving in New York when I was 18. And perhaps because that world of modeling is not see, I don't want to say something bad. I'm not talking about the people. I'm just talking about the circumstances of that world. It's not very spiritual and not very pleasant. You know, after a while, naturally, since I had faith, I think it started to bother me. So I kind of transitioned more into, when I moved to Los Angeles, into acting, which, believe it or not, it was easier. It was less problematic. You could do commercials, you know, you work one day and you have a casting director, they're union, so nobody can really interfere with your work. It was more clean, I would say. And but even that was, you know, I studied to become an actress and director in a very good school. And that's and I'm very glad I did that, because I think that gave me ability to write and direct later on, which is what happened. So I think the turning point in my life obviously was when when my older son was born, and it was 2000, and I decided to finally go to the Orthodox Church, because I was born Serbian, which is Serbian Orthodox, but I never followed necessarily any denomination. So when I had my first confession and communion, I had a very special experience that I will never forget. So I knew that I was doing something right. And ever since then, obviously, everything I was doing, it had to be in line with helping people or doing writing. If I was going to write, it has to be something that would encourage people to do good, or the roles that I would choose, they would have to be positive roles. Unfortunately, having a little bit of an accent and being offered roles of only Eastern European women, I had to turn most of them down because they were quite degrading and disrespectful to women, so I wasn't interested in that. So at that point, I decided to write my own scripts and develop my own stories and direct them or act in them, and that's how I arrived where I arrived today, and that I was able to write a movie, and with the blessing of God and help of Nectarios, I can honestly say that this film came together, and I was given that chance. Well, I think the most important is for a mother like myself or all the other mothers to have a true faith yourself and to display love and to teach a child from very young age Christian principles. The most important is to show with your example that with your prayer, if you believe in God, if you believe that He's the Father, you can teach your child that. And that's the most important thing that you can teach your child, in my opinion. That's what I've done with my two children, and I hope that I was able to instill something in them. Obviously, every human being is different, every child is different. But I believe that if a mother who is Christian, you have to really show your faith and in your life, so the child can see that it's a living faith. It's not just on the paper or in the behavior that's outwardly. So I think that's the message I can give, and ultimately, I am a living example of faith keeping me alive and bringing me where He brought me. That's all I can say. I owe everything to God, so that's why I belong, and that's all I can say about that. And then it's not just some theoretical, imaginatory expression. It's very sound and factual thing that I can say that throughout my whole life, that God has a hand in my life, whether it was positive or negative, and I'm grateful for everything, for every trial, difficulty, tear, happiness, and I hope that He doesn't leave me and stays with me until the end. I was always like that. I always believed in positive stories with the positive outcome, with the outcome that can inspire somebody, help somebody. But I never thought, even though I was since 2000, year 2000, when my older son was born, I started going to Orthodox Church, and I became a member of the church ever since. I never thought that I was going to make a film about a saint in particular. I read a lot about saints, different saints, and to me personally, they hold extreme value, and they're so dear to me, and they help me with their suffering, with their faith. But I never thought of that until in 2012, when I was in Belgrade to pay respects to my father passing away a year after, because I couldn't fly. I still didn't have my green card and the papers in the United States. I read a book. I bought a book about Saint Nectarius because I heard about him a lot. And when I was flying back to Los Angeles, I read it. And I was very moved by his story in some special way. Maybe there were some things that were very personal and close to my heart. And there were some elements of his story that I felt that there would be a good movie. It would be a film that is relevant nowadays and that can give people strength and clarify some issues. So I decided to embark on this path. That was 2012, on writing the film about Ias Nectarius and hopefully seeing it happen. And in 2013, I came to Greece for the first time, and I went to Egina, and I had only one page, what I was able to gather from all the research I did, just as an idea. As you know, as a writer, when you write the outline of the film, then it's very easy to write the script. So I had that outline, and I put it on his tomb, and I asked him if it was his will to help me make it, because I personally am just a struggling artist. I didn't have any means to make something like that. So I definitely needed his help. And then in 2013, I came back in 2014, I came back with a script, did the same thing. In 2015, I went to the monastery in Arizona. I've told actually Elder Ephraim from Arizona, elder who passed away recently, who was the abbot of Philotea Monastery in Mount Athos. He's quite well known. I told him that I wanted to make a film about Saint Nectarius, and he gave me his blessing. And I moved to Serbia first in 2015 and 2016 in Greece, where I started further developing the movie. And ever since, in a very interesting way, almost miraculous, people reached out to me. They were willing to fund the film, and the film slowly happened against all odds with all the COVID and everything. I can't even believe I'm finished, to be honest. I'm just grateful. That's all I can say. So this is how this movie came about. The greatest artist is God. He is the ultimate creator. He is the creator of universe and the world and all of us. So real artists, whether they know it or not, are connected to God very much because they tap into that creative energy. And that's how they create what they do. So obviously, since God has given us free will out of love for us, because we are not his slaves, we are free creatures, and that's the beauty. We have a choice to make how we're going to use those energies. Are we going to use them for good or for bad? So to help people or to destruct, So, but I think that artists are actually very close to those energies, and therefore art is very much linked with faith and spirituality. When I was living in Los Angeles, I left Los Angeles in end of 2015. At one point, I would just stand in the middle of the street and I would look up and look at the billboards. And there was not one billboard that wasn't displaying darkness, violence, things that are very negative. And I know as just a simple human being, those kind of energies are very destructive. They don't only manifest to individuals, they manifest throughout the whole societies. And we can see the state the world is in right now. And I'm not saying that only that caused, but it's got a lot to do with it. There's a lot of hatred. There's a lot of dishonesty. Not to mention the media is promoting things that they're trying to make everything upside down. Things that are good are bad, the things that are bad are good. And they're trying to confuse people and definitely not tell the truth to people. So it's like when you have so much darkness around, naturally the world will become a dark place. And this is what's happened. And now because the world has become a quite dark place, we are forced to, and I said this to my friends, just match my word. The films about faith and the films that will give strength to people will be films that people are going to want to watch because their life is going to become a horror show. And I'm not a prophet. It's just simply, it was pretty obvious to see that was coming. So yes, these are energies that affect our life, our mind, our spirituality. And that's why part of it, and I'm a little bit of a rebel. I like to, maybe that gave me extra strength to make a film that will inspire people, that will give people hope, rather than making a movie that's just gonna, support people to fall further into depression and to feel they don't want to live in this planet. I don't know what people's agendas are, but clearly there are some people that rule this world that like to, control people, right? That like to have everybody under their thumb. Well, real Christian cannot be controlled. First of all, a real Christian is not afraid of death. And this is what, that's a problem for some people that like to control the world. If you really believe what Jesus said, which is, he said, don't be afraid of the one who can kill your body, but afterwards he can't do anything. Be afraid of the one who can kill your body and then throw your soul in hell. That's the only one you should be afraid of. So Christians, the true Christians, being free. Basically, if you're not afraid of death, you're free. As long as you're afraid to die and to get sick and all that, you're a slave. You're always living in fear. But once you're not afraid of that, then nobody can control you. So I think that's why the Christians are problematic for them. And they're being targeted. We know that. You don't need me to tell you that. I mean, there's evidence of that the Christians have been slaughtered. There are a lot of times that news would never even report on it. And, but that's the world we live in. I believe in eternal life. And I believe that whoever has passed away, their life continues. So the final say is God's, not the rulers of this world that serve different God. A younger one as well, but my older one who calls me all the time, I always tell him to pray, to ask God for guidance. on everything he does to develop that relationship. You know, everybody has a different path. I can tell him certain things, but he knows what's right and wrong. I hope I managed that much to instill something good. I think it's the conscience is very important for a young person to keep that conscience clear. I would tell young people to have faith and to know that their life is a gift and to do good, to give. If you don't feel anything, you know, you're gonna feel more if you're giving, if you love somebody, if you do something for somebody without wanting anything in return. You know, these are all the energies that can move and it can make your life better. And that they're living faith, not just as I say, the dead one. The one that it's living faith is the one that comes from deeds as well, not only from talking about it. And I don't know, I don't judge anybody, you know, love everybody and try to do good, you know. That's the only thing I can say.